pay for this! Cocksuckers! Pricks! I'm gonna fight you chicken shit! Pricks! Pussies!
Angela!
I'm gonna fight you chicken shit! Come on, you fucking pussies! I'll kick your freaking asses all over this goddamn town!
Hello and welcome back to episode 5 of Chopping It Up. Before we get started, I wanted to give a quick shout out and a big thank you to one of our faithful listeners, a follower of Chopping It Up, the listener who requested anonymity, so I'll refer to him simply as Bubba. He reached out to me and had a correction issue. So in our previous episode, which covered In the Mouth of Madness, I referenced John Glover sleeping with Mick Jagger, as you guys recall. This is, in fact, incorrect. Our listener, Bubba, pointed out that it was actually Freddie Mercury who John Glover was sleeping with. So thank you, sir, for keeping us on the straight and narrow. That kind of attention.
Maybe even cooler.
It may be cooler. I was going to say I apologize for defaming Mick Jagger's good name and maybe John Glover's, I guess.
Are we sure not both?
Well, I don't want to. Let's be honest here.
It would have elevated Mick Jagger to me. That would be great.
Who would go Mercury when you could go Jagger? It seems like a step down, but in any event,
no.
All right.
Mercury's a step above. All right, that's a whole other podcast.
Okay.
All right. In any event, if you have questions or corrections such as this one, please send us an email at choppingituphorrorpod@gmail.com. Don't let us just sit up here and yap away. Y'all can be interactive and be part of the show too. So, okay. Palate cleanser, boys. This week we are pairing a couple of straight-up slasher flicks, the 1980s schlock classic Sleepaway Camp and the 1981 movie The Burning. Yeah, it is only May, but we are already on that summer vibe. We got lakes, horny camp counselors, dysfunctional kids, psychotic murderers on the loose, and, of course, gratuitous nudity. Incidentally, we are back at full strength. All members are present and accounted for. And once again, I'm your host, Jesse Goodman. I'm joined by the intrepid space traveler, returned from the outer reaches of Neptune. Let's welcome home the airman, Mr. Joel Reeves. Also joining us, the man with the largest trapezius muscles in the world, our podcast field reporter and co-host, Michael Sled. And the guy who holds down the fort and makes the world go round, producer turned co-host, Mr. J. All right, boys, let's fucking get it. Let's go. All right. First impressions / meat cleaver ratings. We are moving some stuff around and we're mixing some segments together. So let's just get a quick first impression and your official rating for each of these films. Jazz, why don't you lead off? Joel, you go second. Sled third, and I'll bring up the rear.
All right. First impression. So Sleepaway Camp I had seen before because Jesse, you'd recommended it to me, and I wouldn't say like I necessarily like loved it, but like the ending, which I'm sure we'll recount in some detail, kind of made the movie. It was just so bananas, so bonkers, so reframing everything that came before. That was enjoyable. Sleepaway Camp, so it's fun. I have a lot of questions and nitpicks that my list of questions only grew on subsequent viewings as I tried to answer questions. More questions were uncovered. But yeah, Sleepaway Camp, ton of fun. I'm going to give that one, a 3 out of 5, which is I'm sure going to be below where some of the others land in, but I have some issues with it. The Burning, it was my first time watching it. Never seen it before. Really amazing to see. Like this is like the mean streets of like these so many like actors of this generation. Like the first appearance of like so many people. It's kind of insane.
Right.
So many people.
So many. It's absolutely bananas. I really it's even by the standards of like slasher movies, it makes so little sense. There's so much physics defying things, and I'm sure we'll get into like the fact that Harvey Weinstein was the story person on this and one of their like first movies, and yet I don't blame Weinstein. This director and camera person and editor and cinematographer just like absolute disaster, like blocking this movie, placing people in positions on the set, placing the camera like 2 inches from people's face. and it just got like so distracting, and it
All right,
didn't
all right.
really have like a payoff. But I'm gonna give it just like a 2, 2 out of 5 for that one. Yeah.
Okay, Joel, what you got?
So I had not seen either of these movies. A lot of slasher movies. So I gotta say, I really enjoyed Sleepaway Camp. I really did. I'll get into why more in detail later, but there's just, I think the questions you were experiencing, Jay, or you were finding, that's what I liked, is that so many things that I was like, so what happened with this person? Why is that person there? So I really enjoyed that movie. I would give it probably like a 4 in that category. For me, The Burning, I liked it with it, right? But I would say if you're going to watch this kind of movie, you'd be better off watching Friday the 13th or My Bloody Valentine or something like that, which it's clearly, it's not ripping off, but it's definitely very much in that vein. So I just think there's better options for what The Burning was trying to do. So I gave that like a 2.5.
2.5. Okay. Sled, what do you got?
Well, I'm listening to y'all so far, I'm kind of hoping that you're going to make me realize why you liked Sleepaway Camp, because I'm going to give Sleepaway Camp like 1 star.
One meat cleaver. One meat cleaver. That's
my man.
Patented.
Okay.
Maybe I wasn't in the mood. This is the first viewings for both of these. I did not watch these growing up, and maybe that's part of the problem. Nostalgia's not weighing on my mind watching these. So, but no, it doesn't sound like y'all watch those either. But yeah, Sleepaway Camp, I thought was atrocious.
Jazz, cut his audio. Right fucking now.
I mean, the final scene was interesting just because of how bad the whatever effect was used to make that effect happen.
All right, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But let's go. Or what about The Burning?
So I'll give that 1.5. Or did I say 1?
You said 1. You gave it a solid 1.
We'll stick with 1. I like to be serious. For the other one, I would go. I actually kind of liked The Burning. I think I might even give it. I'll give that a 3 stars.
Holy shit!
This motherfucker, if you don't say meat cleavers, first of all, I can't. Jazz, get him out of here. Just get him the fuck out of here.
3 meat cleavers.
You know what? I'm going to end this fucking podcast before we get started.
3 meat cleavers.
All right.
For The
3
Burning.
meat cleavers. 3 meat
Just
cleavers.
say the numbers. That way you don't even have to remember the unit of measure.
Okay. All right. So I let everyone else go first, and that's fine. I do want to say, let's see. First impressions. All right. First impressions for Sleepaway Camp. I mean, I've been watching Sleepaway Camp for so many years. I actually accidentally stumbled upon it years ago because there was a movie when I was a kid that I watched called Summer Camp Nightmare, which is like a really bizarre in a different way. But I accidentally thought it was called Sleepaway Camp for some reason. And I ended up watching Sleepaway Camp years ago and of course fell in love with it because it's awesome. But let me say, for me, Sleepaway Camp is like comfort food for the soul. Like you could turn it on Tubi, you could sit back, you can relax it, you can turn your brain off. All the lines, the scenery, the actors, the storyline, it's just perfect and requires very little from the viewer except to enjoy what you're watching, which it's like the ultimate entertainment. And at the end of the day, that's what these kind of movies and this podcast are all about. I am giving it a chopping it up first time ever perfect 5 meat cleavers.
Wow.
It is the platonic ideal of what constitutes a perfect slasher film. And for The Burning, it's a clean, like linear, well-paced film. It also requires very little of you as a viewer. Short, easy to digest, and pretty straightforward. Touches on all the slasher flick tropes, and many other movies end up following. It's good at what it does. It's not aspiring to be high art or particularly aversive. So I ended up giving that a 2.56 meat cleavers.
2.56.
2.56. So I guess that's where I come out on it. Joel, if you want to go ahead and give us, and now that you're back in your wheelhouse here, give us some of the movie stats.
Sure.
Anything you got for us, let's hear it numbers wise.
All right, so let's start with Sleepaway. So Sleepaway came out in 1983. The director, writer, and producer, all the same person, Robert Sick, I think is how you say it. Hiltzik.
Yeah.
This is like his big thing, right? Like he wrote this and Return to Sleepaway Camp, I think. Is that right?
Right. Well, there were two. There was a sequel and a third part, which had nothing.
But he was not involved in those.
Yeah,
he was not involved.
Return was way after the
it's
right?
like
it doesn't acknowledge either of them, right? It goes straight.
Which I actually think
is spectacular. Vision.
Right. He has a bit. You can mock now, but as soon as Joel's done, I'm getting in your asses about this. Let's get Joel. Go ahead, run through the numbers.
So no. I mean, it's so this movie, its runtime, it's a lean, mean hour and 24 minutes, right? Which this kind of movie, that's a sweet spot, right? I appreciate that very much.
The director's cut has the extended softball scene, though. So I mean, that'll be.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh!
That's a pretty legit softball game.
No, it's not. Have you ever played softball?
You never told someone they blow dead dog dicks or whatever Ricky said. I mean, a softball game. I assume that's how everyone talks.
We don't have a wardrobe section to review in this, but I would like to put into record. Everyone brought their own clothes for Sleepaway.
That's right. There was no
a costume department for Sleepaway. It is a lean budget of $350,000. Now, granted, that's back in 1983, but still, that's pretty lean. It made $11 million. It was a huge hit, which is why you got sequels. For as little as it cost to make this thing, it made a truckload of money, and that's just box office. Like, the people from Sleepaway have been doing the conference scene for 3 years, right?
Yeah. I actually reached out to Felissa.
What's her name?
Felissa Rose.
And every one of them
on Instagram
or $50 off of that.
And she is all over this. She has not returned my message, oddly enough. So
probably dead.
I think she's still kicking around.
To be honest, the vast majority of direct messages she gets from people on Instagram who are big fans of Sleepaway Camp are clearly people trying to lure her to a murder. So I mean, I think that's.
It's funny because I told her I'm not trying to murder you, so I don't know why she said that.
That's how murderers never say that.
When someone leaves, I'm not going to kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. All right. So back on. Yeah, I think DB.
Or do a surprise gender reveal to you on first meeting.
Christ. The IMDb score for 6.2, so it's pretty darn good, honestly, for a slasher movie, especially. Its Metascore was a 58, and those are reviews of the time period. So that's like reviews done by, I think, like the Chicago Tribune. There's a few others, but and they were really split. Like, some people thought it was great, some people thought it was awful, right? People seem to think it was, which I don't think at all, it was a ripoff of Friday the 13th. I didn't think that. I think that's, you could make more with the burning, but
absolutely.
Anyways, so the big actors, and big in quotes, right? Like Jesse's already said one.
I thought there was going to be a reveal. I thought there was something.
There's only one person. Okay, so I'm just going to skip to it. There's only one person in this entire cast or production that went on to have what I would call a big career, and it's a special effects person by the name of Ed French. He's in all sorts of stuff. Like, he's in a bunch of the movies that are like still present day. I'll open it up in a sec. But going back to the actors, you've got Felicia Rose.
Felissa. Yes,
All right,
Felissa.
all right. Then you've got Jonathan Tierson, I think, and then
Kirsten.
Karen Fields. They're three of the big ones, and then Mike Callan. He was Mel in the movie, so one of my characters in the movie. And then when you hop over to The Burning, I mean, it's cast pretty loaded. Like,
well, wait. You skipped right over actually probably the most famous person in the cast
Who?
of Sleepaway Camp. Well, I mean, there is, guys. Get your nerd antenna up here, gentlemen, because there's another Star Wars connection for us. Robert Earl Jones, who is Ben, the assistant chef,
you did skip that. That was
is the father of James Earl Jones.
it's his brother.
It's his father.
Is it his?
It's his father. It's his father.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And he was. I looked him up. He was like a legit.
and I recognized him and his voice in the
Yeah.
thing. He was.
So we have things to talk about with that guy because it was him and Artie, I think.
Yeah, hold on, Joel. Hold on, your audio is jacked up, but I'll pick it up for you. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, well, I was first going to say Robert Earl Jones. Even though it's not noted and I couldn't find it, I read Joel and I both read a book on Sleepaway Camp by a guy who befriended the director, was like close with him for like 25 years. And they didn't mention it in the book or in anything I could dig up online, but Robert Earl Jones is like, I assume, I don't know how you say this in these days, but really fucking retarded. Like he's definitely a retard. Like, have you just seen him? I don't know his facial expressions, how he's talking and delivering his lines. Like, what's going on with him? What is he's retarded?
I think he must have had like a stroke or something. Yeah, I think. Yeah, because he was a legit actor. He was like a very prominent sort of like black actor of like a particular era of like 40s and stuff like that. He's not a nobody. It was just like absolutely shocking when you see him in this movie, where he's clearly just. He's like a corpse walking. He's like Biden.
He lived for 23 years after this movie was made.
So yeah, Desiree Gold I thought really enhanced the role of Aunt Martha with her bizarre interpretation. But the last thing, before you move on to The Burning, Joel, with all those numbers, the director of the camp, Mel, he actually, Mike Kellen, the guy you were describing, he put out a folk album in 1967. And he's sort of, to me, if you haven't seen the movie, you're just imagine like the boxing analyst Burt Sugar if he had a baby with like Milton Berle. Like that's what he reminds me of.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
All right. So The Burning came out 2 years earlier, 1981. The director, a gentleman by the name of Tony Malum, and pretty much everything else is Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein is all over this. He was the writer. He was the main producer. Yeah, this is clearly, his first foray like into the movie business.
I read somewhere, I don't know if you can confirm it, but I think that this was also like seriously where he first had an issue with sexual assault with someone on the set.
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I read that the one that I saw was basically someone who was like the accountant for the film or something, was like dropping off some like paperwork to his hotel room, and he did the whole thing where he answered in a towel and like dropped it and then asked for a massage, and she refused, thankfully. And he basically picked on her for the rest of the production about it. It was pretty good Harvey Weinstein stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he was getting out of jail. Didn't they declare that he didn't do anything?
Yeah, I think they declared it a mistrial, so they'll do it again. Yeah.
So she just missed out on a career opportunity.
Joel, what do you got?
So,
Joel, what do you got?
Moving on. So the budget of this is much higher. It's 1.5 million, and its domestic gross was not even half that, 707,000. So it was pretty big flop. Part of that is probably because it landed on like the infamous videos nasties list.
Yeah.
Okay. In the UK, and pretty much everyone followed that lead. The other thing is when you start looking at the ratings from various other people, or the reviews, I should say, a lot of people thought it was like a direct ripoff of My Bloody Valentine and Friday the 13th.
Well,
Which again, I don't think it's quite fair.
No,
but
it's not fair at all. If I can chime in for a couple
Please.
reasons, the chief among them being the screenplay, which Weinstein wrote, and I think he pulled his brother in as well.
He did, yeah.
Was written a full year before the Friday the 13th original script was written. They had
so
problems,
in 78,
they had problems with the production, and whatever the issue was, the screenplay was shelved. And in the interim, Friday the 13th went to production and was released before The Burning. But in fact, it's the inverse is true. Is The Burning was originally written before that and done independent of that.
So either they didn't influence each other, or The Burning was the influence on,
correct. And that kind of like The Burning was originally supposed to be a franchise deal where the killer, the legend of the Cropsey legend, which we'll get into, was supposed to be the backdrop for that. And it never got off the ground with obviously the popularity for Friday the 13th.
Yeah. So also the IMDb score is right on par with Sleepaway. It's a 6.3, and Sleepaway's was a 6.2. So they're right there. Crazy. Oh, forgot to mention our man, special effects, Tom Savini is there.
Yeah.
Killing it as always. And then actors that are just kind of notable. I'll start with one that was a strange thing. One of the campers, Carolyn Howland, I think it is, was Miss Ohio. Houlihan, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
She was Miss Ohio, and then ended up going and competing, I think, in Miss USA.
That's the one who got nude with
with Eddie. Yeah. With Eddie, yeah.
I remember her looking up her name because she was the best looking chick in that movie.
Yeah.
Yes, by a good margin. Yeah.
Right.
And then there's
it explains a lot for the skinny dipping scene. So yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then another female lead that was kind of a big deal in it is Leah Aries, I guess. I don't know. She is in Bloodsport.
That's right.
Yeah.
She's the reporter in Bloodsport. Immediately recognized
reporter
her.
in Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I will go in, reverse prominence order. You've got Ned Eisenberg, who's basically been in every episode of every show of Law and Order there is.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy has been working for a long time. He plays the creep in this one. Not that guy. What's his name?
Eddie.
And then you've got Fisher Stevens from Hacker and Short Circuit fame.
Oh, that's your guy.
Oh, don't worry. I have some Fisher Stevens commentary later.
And then Jason
Holly Hunter.
Yeah, Holly Hunter. That's right. As a very young, this might be her first movie.
It is her first movie. She got her Screen Actors Guild card for this movie.
She's like a brunette in this too. It kind of threw me off.
She is Holly Hunter. Holly Hunter's always been a brunette. Yeah, she is a brunette.
I thought she was a blonde. Yeah. Well, anyways, I couldn't track her for a minute, but yeah, she's this. And then Jason Alexander, of course, is all over trying to do comedic relief. In when I was talking to Jesse about it, it's like a proto George Costanza
God, it's
Basically,
fucking
a farmer.
annoying. Yeah. Like they must have not
It's
given him
a
a lot
lot.
of lines, and they were just like, "Yeah, just we need you to fill up some noise,
Vamp.
and like, here's your general idea of what you want to say." And he's like, "All right, I'll just do a fucking Costanza bit, like try it out."
Yeah.
You missed.
Is it? I actually would say it's like less Costanza, and he's more like he's like that generation's Ryan Reynolds attempt or something like that.
Yeah.
He's just like a doughy Ryan
Well,
Reynolds.
if you watch the first
You know,
season of
Oh,
Seinfeld,
you know,
that's actually
yeah.
I was gonna say I have thoughts on him being doughy. That's the doughy guy in 1983. That is not the doughy guy in movies now.
Yeah, no.
not at all. Also, Joel, you missed one.
Pre-seed oils. Yeah.
Yeah, we missed one last guy,
Who?
Brian Backer, who plays Alfred, the creepy guy who
yeah.
is the peeping Tom. He's Mark Ratner, the rat in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, I totally forgot that. Yeah, you're right.
So he's been in some stuff too.
Also in Police Academy 4.
He is.
So that's the quick rundown of these two films and their stats. They're pretty similar. I mean, except for one made a lot. Sleepaway made a lot more money, much bigger hit.
There are some more connections. Just last thing on that, and then we can get right into cultural and cinematic significance. But the production manager on Sleepaway Camp was also the assistant director for The Burning, a guy named Cliff Clifford.
Okay.
So there was a lot. So I don't know what kind of ideas were exchanged at that time or what influence one had on the other, but you actually had a couple of different staff members that worked on both films. Being in the same subgenre and coming out relatively at the same time. So I think you'll have some of that. But yeah, let's move right on into our meat and potatoes for the show here and the cultural and cinematic significance here, which I don't know how much cinematic significance there is, because I don't think there was a lot of cutting edge directorial stuff going on, obviously, in either film. But Jazz, why don't you lead off? Sled, you follow Joel, and then I'll bring up the rear for this section.
Yeah, I don't know. Cultural. So I don't know if there's any cultural or cinematic. I'm sure there's cultural significance because the movies are obviously both considered cult classics. Like most of the stuff I have about both of these is largely like an endless list of questions, accusations, various sort of things like that. I will say this. So maybe here's like some common theme connections between the two. Like the shared themes are just basically like unwanted sexual advances and the adultification and exploitation of kids. Maybe
I think that's just the 19.
I was going to say, how are you going to say that? That was just it. Dude, we came up in the 80s. That was just it. Dude, Sleepaway Camp was like a study in verisimilitude. That's like exactly what fucking feral, preteen and teenagers were like.
I think, I mean, maybe is the amount of like anger everyone seems to be retaining in Sleepaway Camp. Like everyone's like on the shortest fucking fuse possible.
It's a miserable fucking movie.
Yeah, Angela is briefly silent to one. Like Meg asks Angela a question. Angela is briefly silent. Meg loses her, ready to like lose her shit and like choke her, shake her, these kinds of things.
Okay.
This is basically like everyone's on a short fuse. It's like really just like, yeah, everyone's angry. Mel is obviously running a failing camp. I assume based on how Mel runs the camp this go around, even though someone had explicitly murdered children this go around, like he must have lost many children in previous years, just based on how he ran his camp, right? Like kids drown, kids are lost in the woods and never found again. There's any number of child molestations that are happening in the kitchen on a daily basis. Mel
he rolls it off for however fucking long. They don't. If there's like shit going on, he's just rolling. Nothing's going on.
Yeah, he's like, things happen. Let's not disturb the children.
No, that's actually a really optimistic interpretation, because Mel is much more fucked up than that. He like actively wants to keep the revenue and the income and the enrollment, and so he's covering all of these things up for a reason. He doesn't care.
Oh, yeah.
He's a classic sociopath, right?
Well,
Like,
and he does
no-
try and murder the one kid.
I mean, it's Ricky who basically is provoking. He tries to kill his own character. By the way, the director originally had him murdering Ricky and changed
Yeah.
it because he just thought, like, on top of everything else that was happening, that would just be
That's
like,
a
too
little
much.
dark. Yeah.
Of course, that would be too much, but he
Was
kept
that
the scene.
Was
he
that
kept-
the dark part?
I was gonna say
No,
that he-
not the young
yes,
children
yeah.
getting
Well,
massacred
Packed
in the
up their
woods.
sleeping bag.
so
As
here's
Angela enters a teleporter, presumably
Well-
to a wormhole where she can miraculously appear in one location.
Donnie Darko all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those are nitpicks so much as, you know what, let's just throw the order out the window. We should all just chime in. We all have a lot to say. It doesn't matter. Our order is not going to work for this part, for these two movies, because
No.
clearly, so I was just going to say though, like, those are, you know, you have issues with the logic and like you said, that the times, you know, how this works out, but like, there are bigger issues being addressed, especially with Sleepaway Camp, right? Which at least two of them off the bat are really worthy, culturally significant, especially at the time it came out in '83. You have right off the jump in the opening scene, you have a gay male couple who are married, and it is not played as like,
Oh no, they're not married. No way.
Okay, a gay male couple.
I didn't even
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Honestly,
Okay.
I didn't even pick up on it that they were a couple. I mean, maybe I wasn't.
Well, it's not
like,
obvious in the opening scene at
well
all. It's
into
only
the movie.
much
Wait,
later on where they piece that
Well,
They're
together.
in
Yeah.
bed. Right. Yeah.
But I want to say that wasn't played for laughs or
No,
as
it
like
wasn't.
these
Nope.
really
No,
these really
they happened to be-
ostentatiously gay guys. No, they were just two dudes who were together, and it was part of the movie. And I think
Right.
that is like that's like way ahead of its time and way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I would agree
for
with that.
kind of thing. And so you know, that theme was something that I thought was really important. There was also the obvious we can get into the gender identity subject, which is also something that wasn't discussed or addressed at that time period in the main. And then of course the just latent, well, the obvious homoeroticism of the film. But Joel, what were you gonna say?
I've got one that I think is really interesting about Sleepaway, and Jesse and I have talked about this, but I actually did the math. So the Burning and pretty much Friday the 13th, all of the other big slasher movies where it's like at a camp or something like that, they cast people in their mid to late 20s to play teenagers. The obvious reason is they want to do full frontal nudity, and they don't want to do that with 13-year-olds, right? Makes sense. Sleepaway, you don't see that for until the very end, which is a whole different thing. But and it's because the in Sleepaway they used actual kids for the roles. And just to give you an example of how dramatic the difference is, so I took Glazer from The Burning, which is the meathead guy, and then Paul, who is like the lust, who ends up getting decapitated at the end of Sleepaway. Paul is 15. He was born in 1968. Movies, I'm just saying 83, right? So he's 14, 15. Glazer's 29.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but in fairness,
in The Burning, it's sort of like I would. It's impossible to know who's a counselor and who's meant to be a camper in that movie.
Because the guy, I told Jesse, the main guy, Todd, second divorce, right? He's got 2 mortgages holding him down, right? Like that guy is a grown ass man, right? Like,
Glazer, in defense of him being 29, he like functionally he's like 13.
Yeah,
like very clear. I don't know if he knew he was even playing a role, but
I think Glazer. Whenever we get to that section, I think it has like all my favorite lines. I think from The Burning, and they all have to do with his attempted seduction, like everything to do with like the Sally. I think
Seduction
her name
of
was.
That's right. Sally, yeah.
Just amazing material from him on that.
Well,
well,
let's jump.
That's great.
Let's get into one of the few real, like we talk about gender identity is something that needs to be addressed. So, if you've gotten this far, we should go ahead and just give everyone what they're waiting for. In Sleepaway Camp, you've got these two twins, a boy and a girl, who end up one of them gets killed early in the movie. We presume as the audience that it's the boy that has gotten killed, and the girl enrolls with her cousin at Sleepaway Camp. And the reveal toward the end of it, she's a weirdo. She doesn't talk. She doesn't do anything normally. Something's really wrong with her. At the end of the movie, we see the reveal. She stands up after decapitating her would-be boyfriend, and she's naked on the beach, and you pan down, and there's her dick hanging out. Which, of course, was like, and she's got this, guttural growl and this insane wild person face on. And that was like a huge deal. So like Jazz said at the beginning, that sort of makes you revisit everything you'd seen to that point. And my question is, well, not a question, but just a bunch of fucking issues with that. So you find out retroactively that as he, Peter, not Angela, went to go live with his aunt, Aunt Martha, who's insane. And she decided.
Aunt Martha. It's Aunt Martha.
Aunt Martha.
Y'all say aunt?
Oh,
I'm not from Texas. I'm not from Texas, motherfucker. That's right. We say aunt.
Yeah, I say aunt, but I mean aunt. I say aunt too, but they're different people.
I think that was from my relatives in Connecticut where I got that. But in any event,
they call aunt and aunt are different. Go ahead.
I think Martha would insist on aunt.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain. In any event, so they go there. She forces Peter to become Angela because she wanted a girl, and her husband had left her. We talk about, family norms and values and structure that's not in place. Like somehow that means I have to force a gender change on my kid, which is a hot button topic these days. But my question is, so we'll just call her Angela, goes through all of this stuff, right? And she's into Paul. Is she not attracted to Paul? She kisses him willingly several times. She holds his hand. Yeah. She's excited for him. She makes jokes about, when he comes up behind her and puts his hands over her eyes. Guess who? Burt Reynolds, so-and-so. And she's naming these sex symbol good-looking guys. And then, it's you, Paul. Like they're flirting, right?
Yeah, definitely flirting.
Mutually.
And so it is a question of, so is her presumably that Angela has lived a non-murderous life.
That was one of my questions. That was one of my questions.
We'll get to that in the question. But just to continue your specific theme just now, she's lived a non-murderous life up to now. Perhaps,
presumably,
certainly. The movie would have to explain a great deal more, or drop some things in, or Ricky's just the accomplice to a whole series of dead children back in whatever town they came from. But is the potential mental break that happens is it puberty? Now she's at puberty, she can't just pretend to be this sort of gender fluid sort of thing. And because now she's really, racked. Yeah. And now she's like, what am I attracted to? Am I supposed to be attracted to Paul because I'm a girl, or am I actually attracted? And then, when she has the flashback to I call it the homoerotic petting scene with her dad and Lenny is the other guy's name.
Her dad. I thought it was her dad's. Are they not her dad's?
No. They're one of them is the dad. That's the one who gets killed in the beginning, and the other is the dad's lover. Lenny. Just two accountants from Long Island, presumably. At least that's how they look in the homoerotic petting scene.
There's so much upstate New York shit going on.
Oh my god, this is the most
very much.
Oh, I can't even do the accents. Although I should just have my family do the accents.
There's real Long Island stuff.
This is absolutely insane. Well, the New York madness.
The Cropsey legend in The Burning that it's modeled after is a real guy named Andre Rand who became the boogeyman up there, killed a bunch of kids.
Yeah, there's a documentary on it. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's someone from you said upstate Long Island. So it's upstate.
Well, no, Long Island, but these camps in real
Or
life,
upstate, yeah.
or in real
Or
life,
in
and
upstate.
in both.
Yeah.
both
So
the
all
movies
these kids are being shipped from
Shipped
the city and the
upstate, yeah.
suburbs and Long Island, Staten Island, up there.
It's something
And
that traditionally like Jews
the Jewish
do.
camps,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah.
like you go away for the summer if you're
Yeah.
a young Jewish kid at some point.
Yeah.
That's like
and at
a
this
rite of
camp just
passage.
mixes every New York stereotype
Like
like,
they're
Right,
all
right,
together.
right.
The Jewish kids, the
That's why
Italian
you
kids,
hear so many
everyone's there.
different
You think Frank Saladino, you think Gino is not right, like there, and Ronnie.
Yeah. But to get to, it's like, so is it she has the flashback to the homoerotic petting scene with her
So,
dad
Jess,
and Lenny,
Jess, how do you
and is that basically like, and that's when she like pushes Paul away, and so it's like all this trauma, is it just like suddenly flooding in and like puberty here, and that's why she goes psychotic
Well, that's
and
the
starts
thing
killing everyone.
That's the thing, because
or,
she was kissing, they were fine, and as soon as Paul was like, "Oh, I'll take your shirt off," like he clearly wants to move to another base,
Mhm.
and that's when she freaks out and has those flashbacks, like you said. I
because the
think
reveal, right?
I think I think you're pretty
he
close
wanted
to it.
touch
Yeah,
them
and then
titties
the
and
other
that
potential
right.
thing, that's right. It's all about, well, the short shorts that the were in the 80s, were we all really just like one slight leg shift away from revealing our scrotum to the public? Is that the shorts that we were wearing in those days?
100%.
Okay.
Maybe
Those
not
are
these,
their
but maybe
actual
some others.
clothes.
I know. That's the most terrifying aspect of like the whole thing, and we'll touch on that
Well,
when we get to
well,
Fisher Stevens and the other one. But
Jazz,
the,
wait. So for that scene, and this
Yeah.
is a legit question because I've watched this so many times and I can't get it. It's that scene. They're looking at their father and his boyfriend, and they're giggling around the corner, and they're not really comprehending what's going on. Then the next scene is of Angela and Peter in bed, and Peter points to Angela. And he has that goes from laughing and smiling to a very sullen expression. What is he pointing at her for?
Yeah, so here's the question. Well, first, is that a true reenactment or just what her mind is sort of like?
I think it's mind.
But it doesn't matter. What does it mean?
So I think it could mean. So here's the other thing. It could potentially mean like, was there like some weird incestuous thing? Yeah, anything from like playing doctor stuff to like worse going on with the kids. And in this case, Peter would be the one who's doing the pointing to his, we learn, dead sister. And is that something that like triggers the break in her, or is the scene just simply like it could mean any number of things, like, now I remember, like, because we're out here, my dad and his lover, that's the reason you're dead, or something like that.
Right.
Or is it like a split personality thing, which is like, you're the one responsible, Angela, but not me, Peter, right? I think it could mean any one of those things potentially, right? So
you're kind of hinting around one of the reasons why I like Sleepaway Camp so much. To me, I told Jesse this, that there's like 9 other movies. I want an entire Sleepaway Camp verse, right? Like, I want a movie from that aunt's perspective. I mean, she's a freaking lunatic.
Well, so let's,
she's a doctor.
Chick in that whole movie.
She's the what?
I love the acting is
chick in the whole movie.
Who? Aunt Martha?
100%.
Yeah,
wow.
It's like,
she's the best part of that whole goddamn movie.
The director, I know the director didn't give this.
This is Meg erasure right here. Is what we're.
The director. Well, Meg's not even on the level of Judy. Are you kidding me? But like the acting guidance, I can just imagine. It's like, I'm gonna play this one as kind of like Willy Wonka meets like 1920s flapper. Like that was her intonation of like the whole thing. Yeah,
her performance was.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
It's totally surreal, and like, I really want like a Lynch style movie of her now.
Yeah,
and it begged all sorts of questions, right? Like, does Ricky know? Right?
Well,
like,
it's crazy.
Presumably, yes, but what does that mean? Right?
It's not obvious at all. Yeah,
it's because that's 8 years. What did it say? 8 years later, right? So you figure when they're little kids, they're 7-ish.
Okay,
which doesn't add up. So
can we actually go back to the beginning and because let's unravel the family dynamic? Just make sure everyone's on the same page at the beginning. So at the beginning, the opening scene, the boat death, everything like that. You have her dad. Mother is not in the picture. although we could get in a theory of what's going on there. And then you have, the lover. And the lover at some point says, like, the doc's on the way, right?
Mhm.
By the way, Aunt Martha is apparently...
She's a doctor.
She's a doctor.
A psychiatrist.
Well, we confirmed because she is able to fudge the
Yeah.
physicals for the children to get in because she can't
Yeah.
obviously have Angela.
Exactly.
Okay, so she's an MD.
But he
She's
says
not
the
a
doc is
psychiatrist.
on the way. So it's like, is Aunt Martha their dad's sister? Or could it be something weirder like Lenny is that his wife or something like that? And that's why he's
I
born.
took it as his sister, but you could
Yeah,
be
that's
right.
what I
don't know.
assumed. Yeah,
So,
but the mother is not in the picture, and
so-
she lives with them.
Jazz,
Yeah, go ahead.
hold on. No, that's an interesting point, and one that was brought up. I won't even say it was my idea, but it was from another podcast that covered this movie. Joel, what was it? You do
Which one?
Funny Dudes.
Oh,
How did this get made?
yeah.
How did this get made? Another good movie podcast. But in any event, that was part of the contention. Was they seem the father and his lover seem very concerned. She's coming home. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
We have to make this look.
We have to de-gay this situation.
That's right.
Is
That's
what
right.
I.
Yeah,
we
that's
have to- we have to-
exactly how it
yeah.
comes off.
So
And,
okay.
And then but then they die. The next thing you know, it's 8 years later, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
8 years later, they're about to go off to camp. Ricky acting relatively normal, although clearly filled with rage. He's a powder keg.
I love it.
And at every single moment, at the slightest.
Do you
slightest
know how
issue.
Ricky got his fucking job?
Oh, I love this fact.
The director told him, "I just want you to curse me out." Well, and he
Dead
went
serious.
fucking.
Yeah.
And that, by the way,
I found that.
Ricky
I found
went.
that verified in multiple places.
Yeah, Ricky went on to be like an alt singer who dyed his hair blonde. Everything in the late '90s that you thought he would be is exactly what he did. So anyone who becomes like
Perfect.
a singer, right, like you knew he would be.
So the 8 years, and during which time, like, their open questions could be, does Ricky know? And the other question could be like, has Angela gone crazy and potentially murdered other people with Ricky as the accomplice during this time? But one thing's clear. Ricky's been going to that camp for 3 years while Angela's been doing fuck knows, So, Ricky's been going to that camp for 3 years. Yeah, it shows up. And then Angela finally shows up at this camp after, I don't know, Ricky is like laid the groundwork or God knows what the whole.
Well, I think Martha was trying to normalize her as much as she could. And it's like, it's time for you to go off to camp now that you're going to be a functioning member of society because Martha's insane and doesn't know what normal is and thought that this would somehow she could like make it work.
Yeah,
and you can't keep her in the house forever. Even Martha realized that. But like, so that begs the question, Jazz. Then we
What
came
has she
to
been doing in the house?
Or does she go to
Go out of
school?
control pretty quick.
Right. Who fucking knows? Well, that's why I love shit like this, is because like all these slasher films, and honestly, like we veer into this subgenre, and it's such brain candy, and I love it so much because the writers clearly don't have an idea or an answer to your question, Michael. So you get to flesh out their would-be interior lives in your own mind while you're watching it on the couch, and I fucking love that. Yeah, what is Aunt Martha doing? What does she make dinner every night? Like, can she cook? Does she clean? Like, what does she do?
To me, the most believable aspect is Angela's been homeschooled the entire time. She's never left the house. That's why she goes crazy when she's exposed to the outside world. Whereas Ricky is, living like a normal life with mom Martha, but probably going to school and doing things like learning how to play softball and whatever.
And that's why I think that's why I think Sleepaway is so interesting. Whereas The Burning, I enjoyed it, like I said. But I feel like I needed to know that information from all the different characters, right? Like, it's not as
what's
good. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
Are we in the general discussing phase?
Yeah,
we're just shooting.
So one big point I had that occurred to me was the chicks in The Burning were a lot hotter than the chicks.
Joel,
they're
On
adults.
average,
I think that's a big.
top to bottom.
Well,
I
I
they're
think it should be stated it's because they're adults, not children. right? Like,
But
I mean-
presumably even the ones of like Meg is probably like presumably about 18 or something like that, right?
Well, she was fucking Mel,
Stephen-
who was like 60. So we
yeah,
we
that's
don't
an
know.
amazing dynamic
What,
too.
can we? You want to
as-
dig into that? You want-
that's
we'll
fascinating.
get to it. But if you're touching on the burning, here's what I'll say. Here's the bone I'll throw to the burning as like a fascinating, very very unintentional thing that ended up being set up.
What?
Literally, the bad guys win in the burning. Todd's like the hero, but he's the one who participated in the prank, lit this poor bastard on fire, didn't help him, and then told a hilarious ghost story about the whole thing, like it's not a big fucking deal. And then the like, what a laugh! Oh, Ned, come over here, you silly rapist, and then or Eddie, sorry, yeah, Ned Eisenberg, Eddie. And then the other aspect is Alfred, the biggest fucking creep in the movie.
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
people who
Yeah.
the people who
Disturbing.
least deserve to survive
Yeah,
are the
Alfred
ones
should.
who end up surviving. And is this Harvey Weinstein's? Is this like
yeah,
like
is
a
this
whole,
a
like,
message?
you mess?
I
like,
think
your
it's
your
definitely
morality
his
is
point
so
of view.
depraved, like you literally don't know right from wrong.
Well,
Or
the
is it
fact
just like
that the kid is
I need to start rehabilitating perverts now,
Right.
so that in the future I'm inoculated. This kid like.
I
Alfred,
think
who
it-
just like creeps around after these.
it
things,
really
like,
it evinces a lot, and I do think that Harvey Weinstein didn't do it intentionally, but surely subconsciously wrote that as he's innocently stalking and peeping toms on naked women, right?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
crime.
I thought
He's
we
these
already
terrible-
heard
he's
he was
terrible
innocent.
women
Is he
who-
out of
yeah.
jail?
What's that, Sled?
I thought he was getting out of jail.
He's getting out of jail. That doesn't mean it's a
God.
mistrial. He was
You
not
guys,
acquitted.
just-
The case
just
is open. But the
Harshin on this man. He's been trying to make great movies forever, and you just hold it against him.
and then Eddie with his like absolute sort of like completely insane
Abuse.
rage at being
Abuse.
spurned.
Yeah.
Is like, what did you come in here for then? Get the fuck out of my
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
He's absolutely
Another. It's all New York shit. They're all like stereotypes of like.
What is this? Some kind of interrogation?
Some kind of
Come over here.
Yeah. Well, the burn. So just in terms of like themes, like in import, like the burning, I think, and Sleepaway Camp were right around at this sort of zeitgeist about like everything is going to be in the woods in a rural area, that isolated feel, right? It's going to be scary. You're going to have people or kids or both together at camps of various sorts. And you're going to have either like a whodunit killer thing or behind the mask killer, right? Which is the
Right.
burning and Sleepaway Camp. And those, at the time that they came out, I'm not going to say utterly original, but absolutely at the forefront of that original wave. And everything since then, everything following then has now become, first it was imitated, and then it became part of like movie tropes, and then it became like spoofs, and then it's like we're so many iterations removed. But you got to remember, in 81 and 83 when these hit, this was new.
So something, Jazz, you said that made me so the villains winning in the burning is very interesting, right? Like, because if you think about like Friday or a lot of the others like that, they're basically morality plays, right? If you drink, if you smoke, if you're not responsible, you die, right? Like that's, and there's a boogeyman that's going to get you, right? Neither of these films are actually that, right? Because Sleepaway is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It is not that at all. It's very, very strange. But even the burning, as soon as you point out, but wait a second, all the bad people are the ones who survive, right? Like the only bad person who dies is Cropsy, right? Everyone else who's a terrible person survives. All the relatively people are the ones killed. It's not a morality play, right?
No, not at all.
And that is really interesting, right? Because all the movies.
I'm not even sure Cropsy's that bad.
I mean, he was burned alive for no reason.
There's
Now,
for no reason.
He's
And then
a sympathetic character.
he's very sympathetic, and then as he's being released from as he's being released
He's
from
a
the
drunk
hospital.
asshole. They burned him alive. I mean,
Being a drunk asshole does not
We
mean
don't
you
even
get
know-
burned
we
alive.
don't-
I'm
even
just saying,
know.
I don't know if, he was
If
that
being a drunk
sympathetic.
asshole got you burned alive, we'd all be toast. Right? So
And then as he's being in the scene where he's being released from the hospital, from the burn ward, there's all these like voiceovers from doctors and nurses.
That's
Yeah.
a
And
whole
one of the
other
things,
thing.
like one of the doctors
Who let
says
this
is,
fucking
he's
The
just like,
grafts
I know
didn't
you
take-
want to
Because
blame
they
those
let him
kids,
like,
but you
oh,
need
it's
to let
fine,
it go.
the skin
but you
grafts
need to
didn't
let it
work.
go.
Yeah.
The skin grafts didn't work.
The
Yeah, they
skin
didn't take-
grafts didn't work, but then when you finally see him, you're like, holy shit, this one really, like, he looks like a goddamn, what the fuck is he? Like, you didn't let that guy out of the hospital. No one let that guy out of the hospital.
Sled. Actually, that was something that Tom Savini on special effects, who's a
Yeah.
wizard. He was only allowed 3 days to do the face, and which was like apparently like way short of what he wanted and needed to do a good job on it. And he was very unhappy with how it came out, and he was rushed. And so that's like
I
not
liked
a
it.
point of pride for him. No, it could have been done a lot better according to Savini.
Yeah,
but actually,
I'm not knocking the effects. I'm knocking the doctors that let that guy.
Oh,
Leave
well,
it like,
Sledder, are you
This
surprised?
is our best work that we had.
Are you
Go
surprised? Are you
on.
su-
I'm knocking that whore who's on the street who saw that guy coming down the way and was surprised when he took his fucking hat off when they got upstairs.
The
If
whole
someone
thing
wants-
is ridiculous. He's like released from the hospital.
holy
He's mad.
shit.
He's like,
You know
I know, I'm going to go to
idea.
Times Square and go prostitute hunting.
It's like the people in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that don't notice the guy under the trench coat has a fucking shell. Right? Like, it's insane.
I'm sorry. Wait a second. My man was burned alive and got out of the fucking burn ward 5+ years later, and he wants to go get laid, and you got a problem with it? What the fuck?
I'm
The guy
just
was
saying
trying to
he's-
go get some pussy.
The
He
idea
wasn't
that he
the-
survived, he was already
he wasn't there for
supernatural
years.
because he got lit on
He was
fire.
in the hospital for 5 years.
Ran around,
It says
that
he
what it
released-
rolled down
five-
the goddamn hill.
I think it-
Amazingly,
I think it was.
he set the fucking place on fire. Like, that it was his body, the spark that set the whole camp on fire.
He's
Him rolling
he's
down the
flammable.
camp was what ignited
he
it.
drinks whiskey every night.
He drinks
He's
whiskey
flammable.
and sleeps next to a full can
Kerosene.
of gasoline. So,
Um,
at the very minimum, the man's careless. Yes, you can say
You
that
just-
much.
Sleeping on a pile of tinder, waiting to go up.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of the antagonists, sort of like not getting their comeuppance, with Sleepaway Camp, there was an argument made. I read it somewhere on some message board, which had me thinking, because we talk about gender identity and Angela as a trans young woman, like this was forced on her. It was a forced gender change for her. And is Aunt Martha really the antagonist in this?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to say like, yeah, go down to like one root cause of the whole thing, it's potentially Aunt Martha.
So, in the same way that you could say Todd is the bad guy in The Burning, you could say Aunt Martha is the bad guy in Sleepaway.
Yeah, very, very much so. I would agree with that one.
But also the issue of we can move on to the other segments. I just wanted the last big theme, which I mentioned, but the homoeroticism, like the pretty overt homoeroticism in Sleepaway Camp. The guys are going skinny dipping and the girls don't want to go. And the guys are like, fuck it, we'll go skinny dipping anyway. All 15 dudes together naked in the lake. And then there's like all the pranks are kind of like that. Like, let's convince this blindfolded kid that he can't do a sit-up. His mind will bend him. And then of course the whole reveal is that you're going to sit up into this other kid's naked butt and put your face in his ass.
Mhm.
And then the obvious like real feelings and relationship between Paul and Angela / Peter. Right. And then Judy even giving Angela shit, being like, what are you, queer or something? Like there's a lot of this, I don't know, like sexual I don't really recall that being a thing as a male teenager, that there was like a lot of everything we're being naked together and we're doing all of these things together. Like so
there's a it's kind of like an inverse slasher thing where all the nudity
is guys.
Yeah.
Well, they
Exactly.
even for the the most disturbing scene at the end with Angela and the reveal and you see her dick and all that. It's obviously they couldn't do that because she was 14 at the filming.
So did they use?
Well, hold on. Well, what, I got you, Sled. I got you. Okay.
Was that a real 18-year-old dick?
Listen, they first the petition, the director Robert Hiltig petitioned Felissa Rose's mom. What I want to do is
To
put a
show her
strap.
dick?
I want to put a strap on her, and we'll like do the makeup on it and make it look real. And she was like,
Oh,
absolutely.
that would have been fucking. You know
She
what?
was like-
Actually, I would have bumped this up from 1 star to 3 stars if they
Right? I would
damn sure.
right. So they vetoed that, and then like the next thing was, okay, we don't know what we're gonna do. When they made a plaster, an acrylic mask of Felissa Rose's face doing that wild thing that was made at like a dental office, I believe. This very thin acrylic to make it look semi-real as possible. They hired a college student, some guy, and they got him drunk. They paid him and got him drunk that night and shaved his body and put the Angela mask on him. And he was out there and like, by the way, this
That
film
poor
was not in
little
the
dick
summertime.
bastard. You kidding
I
me?
know it was
Jesus Christ.
cold out. Like the man was
My
it
man
was
got done
cold.
dirty.
It was
I
cold.
should have made him shave his fucking
Yeah.
dick too. It would have looked
Yeah.
a little bigger. I mean, Jesus, I would have definitely made him shave my. I would have
I
got
mean,
a semi.
or have a
semi-hard
fluffer.
on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get a
exactly.
fluffer just
They
to
put a
just
goddamn mask on him. I thought that
They
was
put-
some like fucking taped on shit after they made it. I had to look it up. That's crazy.
So I told Jesse that I've seen a lot of horror movies, and that mask, I couldn't quite figure out what was going on, but it's one of the more disturbing images I've seen.
It's quite something, that face. Yeah.
I mean, disturbing is the one way to think. I think it was so bad it didn't disturb me.
Well, it was because I couldn't figure out, much like you, Sled, when I'm first watching it the first few times, like, what am I looking at? Like, something doesn't look right here. I know it's not Angela. She's a young woman. I know it's not like, what am I looking at? And that's what makes it so upsetting to see.
The lighting is all weird. It's like, it's
like
very,
he's
very
wearing a
strange.
goddamn
Although
glow in the dark fucking mask or something. It's like it's like that's definitely a dude's body, but I see you telling me that's that dude's real dick.
Yeah,
that's it.
It is, and
that poor
it's
bastard.
it just looks like an alien.
That's the real
situation. The
horror.
proportions are so distressing.
Well, let's go ahead, and I think we can go ahead and shelf this now. We've touched on as much as we're going to get out of cultural significance for this. But let's talk about our favorite kills, our favorite scenes. If we don't have a favorite kill, you guys go ahead and jump in. Let's just do a free for all here.
All right. So for Sleepaway, I thought there were two. There's the frying of Artie.
Okay.
I thought that was really well done. And then the end scene where it's the decapitation of Paul.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Chef Artie kill too. That's my favorite kill for Sleepaway because I really did actually like the special effects with the skin bubbling and the arms and the face. It all was creepy. By the way, that pot that he was cooking on, that is 6 feet tall. I mean, that was of course no such thing exists, obviously, but someone on set put that together, like the set designer, like crafted a fake pot, and the attribution was like, well, it's just because of the director's sense of kitsch. I'm like, what? How is this an explanation?
I had an idea about, if they had just let that chef molest that little boy in the very beginning, he could have said so many goddamn lies.
Oh
my God.
Oh shit. But you are onto something. What would have happened?
That's like killing baby Hitler, right? Like they could have, he could have. They just
the whole thing would have been shut down.
There, he would have found out. It would have been all over. All those people would be alive.
Yeah, he wouldn't have. That's so true. He
Sled,
wouldn't have actually gone through with it. He would have been like,
shit.
"Wait a minute! Oh my
Holy
God!
shit.
Why am I the voice of reason?
Let him cook. Let him cook, Sled.
Oh God!
What other kills? I like the arrow scene where Mel gets shot with the arrow through the neck, which was like there was a whole design aspect of that was really hard to figure out. But it was in the book, Joel. They had diagrams and shit of it. They spent a lot of time trying to make that look real, and it was actually pretty successful. It was pretty nasty.
My favorite kill, my favorite scene / kill, and maybe it's a little bit extended. It's the beginning of Mel's search for Meg from when he she doesn't show up for the date.
Yeah.
So Mel begins his search. He's talking to the other campers, like, hey, you seen Meg? Oh, she's off tonight. Yeah, she's supposed to have a date with me. Everyone's like, oh, okay, how about that? Totally fine.
Totally fine.
You're 174 years old.
Again, Robert Hiltzik, way ahead of the curve. Okay, he doesn't care about.
You dress like Milton Berle pants and I don't know, like Scott Baio shirts or something like that. Like the opening scene with like the striped t-shirt. The rolled up socks or the pulled up black socks and everything. Anyway, the scene where he's searching for Meg to the point where he eventually, discovers her. Because like Meg's death scene is like absolutely amazing.
That's good.
We'll get into the inhuman strength that Angela has, I'm sure at some point in questions. But like when she, cuts straight through the shower. And Meg just, happens to be leaning back against the shower just at that point. It's fantastic. Meg also can't take a step forward during this long, cutting scene of her back. But then after she's dead, when Mel eventually finds her, she's just been upright the whole time, apparently with her arms raised above her head. Then she falls out of the shower with her arms raised above her head just when Mel walks in. And then you get the amazing speech from Mel, who's like, oh no, Meg, not you, Meg. I never should have let him go. I had him, and I let him go.
Dude, what is going on? Yeah. What is going on? Can we parse out what exactly is like a presumably 17-ish year old camp counselor doing fucking the 60-year-old Milton Berle camp director?
Well, you said Milton Berle. Milton Berle's supposed to be wrong.
There you go. But like that's another thing that they play so straight. Like they don't even talk about it.
Absolutely insane.
Everyone else is totally. And she comes back to her girlfriends and it's like bragging.
I got a hot date tonight.
I got a hot date tonight.
It's not like she's manipulating him or trying to get money or something. She's like, I got a hot date.
She just was like, fuck remembering
wrong.
It's totally bananas.
Or is she's the best looking one out of the whole group?
Pretty much, yeah.
So she's going after this mutant Mr. Furley.
What's wrong with Ronnie? Ronnie's ripped up, man. Ronnie's wearing fucking weightlifting shirts. Why is she not going for Ronnie?
Any number of counselors, Gino, the one non-Italian, the one WASP counselor. So
the one WASP counselor.
Is Ronnie the Jack dude? Who's the Jack dude?
Yeah. Ronnie's the Jack dude.
That's actually one of the things I meant to call
out. All upper body. Totally skips leg day. All 80s. Upper body.
Yeah, they call him pops. My wife calls him popsicles. Like guys
early
like that.
80s, that's super jacked. Think about
Sled. He was a real bodybuilder back then.
Oh, was he? I was gonna say like early 80s. That guy was probably like abnormal to look at. Now you glance by him. I mean, think about what's his fucking nuts in the other movie, Sleepaway Camp, the buff guy. Or no,
Glazer.
In the Burning?
Glazer in the Burning.
Oh, Glazer. Glazer.
Think about all those muscles on top of you. And then when you finally get to see him, which is not that much long later, you're like, this is the fucking guy you're talking about.
This is the guy they're talking about? He's less ripped than Todd.
This is muscles in 83.
Yeah, but Glazer looks like he could beat the shit out of Ronnie in a street fight. Like that's just what I mean.
Glazer's been in some fights.
Yeah,
Ronnie's never been touched
for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So kills. I was gonna say kills for the Burning. Did anyone have any?
Yeah, I got my absolute favorite because it's so ludicrous that I literally like rewound and watched this just to make sure I wasn't like imagining the various angles involved and everything like that.
Yeah.
So Glazer has just romanced Sally, during which time, he's promised her, it's going to be real good. I promise. Trust me. It's going to be real good, baby. And then when they finally
make it sound ridiculous, like I haven't said the exact same thing.
Then there's something he says when they like you overhear them beginning to have sex or whatever, and at some point he has to tell her, "Hold still," which is like I've never had to tell anybody that precisely.
Yeah.
Hold still.
Well,
I'm trying to. The aiming is, Anyway.
You're moving around too much.
Yeah, you gotta hold still. This is getting too complicated. But anyway, he leaves. She gets killed. He trots back with Alfred, literally like 5 feet behind him, and he doesn't know that Alfred is right behind him.
Right.
But then he's like, "Oh, you're hiding, huh?" And he's like, all right, peekaboo. And then presumably we're supposed to believe that Cropsy is under the sleeping bag. But you look at the angle that the shears came up. He was kneeling right next to Glazer. He's like kneeling next to him in order for like that angle to come up. It's so preposterous.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some seriously bad like physical placement and editing that's like a repeat crime in this movie. Like so many things that I'm going to comment on, but it's absolutely just amazing. So for me, it's that one, just because like the full sequence of like, Glazer's romancing to that absurd death are just priceless.
I think the kill for me in The Burning was my favorite, was when Cropsy himself actually gets killed at the end. You take an axe to the forehead and then you're lit on fire. And by the way, the axe was actually that action scene was done by Tom Savini himself. He threw the axe, or he swung the axe. But yeah, that was the best kill for me. I mean, there was a really healthy body count for both of these films. That's what you're going to get with slasher movies. So at least they came through on that front. But
I didn't do my best kills.
Yeah.
What do you
guys
got
to go.
Yeah.
So I got nothing for Sleepaway Camp because it sucked.
You are.
I have.
How about when the little children get murdered?
Yeah, God, you're too good for that.
My biggest takeaway from Sleepaway.
What about the beehive? What about the beehive, man? That was
people just stood around. They're like, somebody do something, and then no one did anything. Like the beginning, those probably could have survived. We didn't see any fucking maul. Like the goddamn boat motor didn't like rip his head open. It just hit him, knocked him out.
What?
Like
someone should have thought of. Let's just let the kid get raped.
what?
I mean, they should have. That would have saved a lot of them. But no, my favorite actually for The Burning.
Oh my God.
But The Burning, I loved the raft scene when he fucking when they float up on
yeah.
And he just like takes out that was
It's 5 of them.
He chops off Fisher Stevens' fingers with the shears, which is just wonderful.
He deserved it.
That short circuit
brown face
motherfucker, and then
racist asshole.
You know what? So you don't like Chaz, you don't like Indian Americans. You got a problem with Fisher Stevens, is what you're telling me.
I do have a question about this one. So I imagine when they were casting Short Circuit, where Fisher Stevens.
God, I knew we were going to end up here. He has Fisher Stevens hatred just boiling inside him. All right,
clearly. So when they saw this movie, they're like
Woodstock. Oh, in Short Circuit.
Yeah.
What's his name? I don't know, Jazz. What's his name?
Is Ben something? I forget the last name.
Oh yeah,
he's the Indian scientist. He's like Steve Gutenberg's sidekick or whatever.
Is he Indian or Pakistani?
He's South Asian, my friend.
I'm just parsing down the words if we're going to be mad about him.
All right, but I assume in the casting of that they saw this movie, right, and they said, who can we get to play an emaciated Indian scientist? And they saw Fisher Stevens, and they're like, this is it. This is finally we got our guy.
Did anyone else have any other favorite kills? Let's keep it moving here. Let's move to the next scene. All right, this is going to be fun. This will be a good time here. Best lines or quotes, which I know this is going to be chock full here. I do want to lead off on a couple to steal them from you guys. But obviously, Joel and I were on the same page here with Chef Artie, who right out of the gates, as the kids are running out of the school buses to get their dorms, to get their rooms together, and he's just eyeballing all of these children running by, and he says, quote, "Look at all that young, fresh chicken. Where I come from, we call them baldies." Now, my question is, where the fuck is Artie from? Like, where you're from that you openly wonder about this thing and have nicknames?
Yeah. Nuke the place from orbit.
And then this one's like actually a funny exchange to me that stood out, which is after Chef Artie gets burned, and they're wheeling him out, and you got Mel and like a doctor and Ronnie standing there in the kitchen, just trying to figure out what's going on. And Mel says, "What's the prognosis, Doc?" And the doctor says, "Well, he's badly burned all over, especially his face. And then Ronnie just deadpans. How about his eyes? Like what the fuck? How about his eyes? And then the doctor's like, too early to tell.
Too early to tell yet, which is the amazing aspect.
I don't understand what we're talking about here. It's like, oh, he was shot to death. And he's like, how are his feet? You know, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
So, by the way, the Artie thing, I timed it because I was amazed. So screen time, Artie is screaming from 1903 in the movie to 2013, nonstop scream, just filming him screaming there. And then he's also like screaming by the time the doctor gets there. So it's just like kind of like pretty amazing. I assume there's a longer scream in the director's cut. He just like, you know, we need more of this. That guy was not in shape. I think that screaming might have given him a stroke. The director is just like, keep on going. So.
Joel, we got any quotes?
So, I didn't have any exact quotes, but it's the other chef,
Ben,
Mr. Jones. He the way he just kind of poo-pooed Artie wanting to pin the kids in the closet. I thought that was pretty intense. The classic.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, right.
It's a boy, or she's a boy. From Sleepaway.
There's also, of course, Ricky is so quotable in Sleepaway Camp. Everything he says is just an
his
absolute.
Curses are epic.
His gutter poetry of profanity. Yeah, well, that's what he says to Bill during the infamous softball game. Is, you know, Bill says to him, "Eat shit and die, Ricky," and he says, "Eat shit and live."
Eat
Bill.
shit and live,
And
Bill.
live,
The
Bill.
delivery is so perfect.
Absolutely fucking pitched, just spot on, right? And also Ricky in the same softball game, someone comes up to bat, and Ricky's just like haranguing everyone for no reason. He's like, "This guy blows dead dogs," like for no reason, just like someone
throwing
comes
haymakers.
up to bat.
Yeah,
Just haymakers.
he's so angry.
You prick! You son of a bitch! I'll kill all you motherfuckers! You
Yeah.
cocksuckers! Yeah, like just a steady stream.
You fucking bastards are gonna pay for this, cocksuckers! Bricks! I'm gonna fight you, chicken shits! You chicken shits! You fucking pussies! You know.
Is he here with us today? I swear, it's like he walked in the room.
It was amazing.
I
got for The Burning, I just love when the doctor voiceover just tells him, try not to blame anyone for what happened. It's just really good.
What's up with the assistant?
The assistant had the other great line. He's like, this guy, you won't believe it. He's cooked like a Big Mac. Overdone. None of that scams.
What are you saying? And by the way, why is he instantly trying to ruin this poor guy's life? The guy walks in. It's like his first day at the hospital. And he's like, let me show you something that will scar you forever.
Yeah. He's like, this nurse or orderly or whoever this is.
Am I remembering right? Or does he refer to him as a freak? Like, he pulls back the curtain and says, like, here's the freak show.
Yeah. Here's the freak show. That's what he says.
Yeah.
I have I think I mentioned like the Mel speech when he finds Meg. I just find that just like absolutely amazing. Just I've got to stop him. Forgive me, Meg. Please forgive. Like as this like deep relationship he's had with Meg, and like the entire thing is absolutely insane. And finally, for Sleepaway Camp, my other final one, he's like, "Hey, we got a game against the counselors. You gonna play?" Sure. I got to take a wicked dump first. So I'll see you guys out there, right?
Yeah. It's really funny. Sled, what do you got? Any good quotes?
Well, you stole my eat shit and live thing. That was
that's a classic.
On that. That was definitely a good one. It's really weird when he goes to fucking see Cropsy in the hotel. Like the guy is just. The thing is, the biggest thing that threw me off, it's not a quote, but think about how old that goddamn doctor lived. Like, that guy's supposed to be like a new fucking doctor, and he's fucking old as shit. Like, he's got, like, he's, like, balding, and he's, like, he looks like, and he's like, oh, if you're going to be a doctor, you got to come see this. And this guy's old as fuck. Like, he look like he's, like, 50 years old. And
now that you're retired from a long career in accounting and you want to be a doctor.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and keep it moving here. This is sort of a new segment that, because when we have lingering stuff that we didn't get to get off here, we can talk about trivia and tidbits. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this because I have a feeling our final segment with questions is going to run a little long. So if anyone has any stuff that they weren't able to get through as far as some just interesting tidbits, which I can kick it. Yeah, go ahead, Joel. What do you got?
I've got one, Jesse. Mel, I think his last name is
Kellen.
Kellen.
Yeah.
He was very sick on set. He actually was dying. I think
Cancer, right?
Lung cancer, and he made it.
Still smoking the cigars.
died
Smoking the cigars
2
all set
months
long, baby.
before the release of the film. So, yeah, never got to see it.
Damn. Yeah. One of the things that I thought was interesting was for Sleepaway Camp also, whenever you see the killer's hands, right? It's basically who done it. You're not sure what's going on, but it's actually not Angela's hands, not Felissa Rose's hands, because she had very feminine, girl hands, and they didn't want to give anything away, so they used Ricky's hands, Jonathan Tiersten, the actor, who, speaking of tidbits, I'll just segue right into the next one. So Jonathan Tiersten, Ricky, was 17 years old when this was shot. Felissa Rose was 14 or 13, and they had an onset romance that was going on and had to be taken aside and told you really can't do this. You're screwing up the movies, because they were getting in lover spats and shit like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And that also did you get that vibe? Ricky comes to her rescue 70 times in visceral ways. And again, is there an incest angle that was like a leitmotif of that here? There's a lot of taboos
Or
being
was it
approached.
just their relationship kind of bleeding into his performance? Who knows?
Yeah. It
Ricky loved that little ding dong.
I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm saying there's a lot of stuff. Look, so that all brings me to my point is you guys can pan it all you want, but there is a fuckload of interesting text and subtext going on. I know. I don't mean you. I mean these two assholes here. Okay.
Hey, I gave it a 3.
It's a solid 5, dude. This thing is exactly what you want.
1.5, y'all. Great.
It's the only movie that you could possibly say is high and low art at the same time. It does so much work. It is so provocative, and it's so simple at the same time.
I have a okay. I was going to say if we're going to go to related to that. Maybe I have if we're slightly segueing into questions, maybe.
All right, let me get off a couple. Let me get off a couple of tidbits, and then we can move. The end scene, which was in an abandoned mine in the burning, where they catch up with Cropsey. That actually they had some cave scouted that collapsed the day before they began to film. They needed to shoot there, so they scavenged around and randomly found this abandoned copper mine and started filming in there. But of course, it wasn't vetted. And anyone who was in there ended up having this really gnarly cough for a month afterwards. They thought
Jesus
they had
Christ.
all got, so they were breathing dust for 8 hours in there.
Right.
But that was it for tidbits. Joel, do you have anything, or Sled, anything before we move on to questions?
No, I want to hear what Jay has.
All right, let's go. Jazz, this is where you go for it, brother. We're on the question segment.
Well, we hit some of them in the earlier parts, but I have to start with on Sleepaway Camp. So the film opens with a dedication. It's
oh my God,
for my mother, a doer. So I mean, my question is basically, what the fuck?
Well, this is covered in the books on Sleepaway Camp. Robert Hilton, the director, has sex with his mom. No, I don't know. It's never addressed. It is fucking bizarre that they would have this.
Threw me off, fucker. Out there.
It's hey, mom. This movie about incest, crazy mom, is for you. This one's for you.
I know.
A doer of me.
He dedicates it to her, and it is the most insane. It's the most insane thing. All right, what
Yeah.
else? I have no answer for that.
Okay. So we talked about the family dynamics, the questions of like what is the actual going on with the relationship. We talked about like what's going on with Angela for 8 years versus Ricky, all that stuff. So okay, one easy one. So the camping kids, the little kids who get
Yes.
killed by Angela.
Yes.
Just to make sure, like those are the kids who like kicked sand on her.
They
That's
threw
why they
sand
deserve
on
to
her,
die.
and they were
Okay.
provoking her. That's right. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Just making
that's
sure
the
that that's
random
what those kids.
in the sleeping bags or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking...
Because Ricky actually talks shit to them, of course, as he's helping Angela off the dock, and they're throwing
So is
sand
there
on her.
any explanation of this that I missed that you actually saw it in the movie that explained this stuff happened?
Well, I mean, basically, like, you know, when they throw Angela into the lake, when they like fish her out, at the end of it, like these little kids are like kicking sand on them and like saying shit, and then you know, Ricky says, "Don't worry, Angela, we're not gonna let them get away with it or whatever." And so like when I was trying to be like, why did she kill these poor little kids? That's the only. It's like reaching. It's like I'm assuming those were those kids, or they were just the same size and shape, so Angela was like good enough.
So did Angela? My question: did Angela kill Paul because he cheated on her with Judy?
Yes.
So
So
she might have actually like.
Yeah,
come to
Paul,
some
the other one who could have saved, you know, the world from Angela, if only, you know.
But would Paul be down with that if he actually got what he wanted? We don't know how Paul reacts to that.
Judy's the like chick that's supposed to be hot, right? But it's not.
Well, yes, yeah, and the reason for that slight is, here's another good tidbit, but I'll throw in. Jane Krakowski was originally cast for her role because he wanted the director wanted a blonde to play it, and she turned it down once she found out a couple of things about the movie, and so he went with his backup, who was.
There seemed to be one scene where she was insinuating that the dude was gay for liking.
Well, there's the homoeroticism. No, he was he was gay because he didn't want to have sex with her. He said, "I'm afraid of getting caught," but it was really.
No, and there was the thing where she's like, "I know you like blah blah blah." Like I can't remember the fucking line, but she said like, "I know you." Like that's your type. She like said something like, "I know you."
Yeah, wait, to Paul.
Yeah. To Paul. Yeah. She does say something like that. She's like, "I'm surprised she's your type," or like, yeah, something about that. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So on Judy, I have a question about her death. So they show Angela one-shotting Judy, straight to the jaw, and she's out one-shot.
Right
Angela.
hand.
She's fucking strong as shit. She kept that. Anyway,
well, that's because she's Peter. I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's a dude.
They can fight just as well.
Oh boy, here we go.
Okay, but anyway, she's out. You know, Angela puts the pillow on her face, then grabs the curling iron thing. What is implied about what she does with it?
What's happening?
What's happening? The pussy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right up in there.
That's my understanding.
And would that kill someone?
Evidently.
No.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my biggest things with this movie is there was a lot of kills that were not like I'm not confident this person would have died, except for I mean
Artie didn't die.
People, like,
I was gonna say one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
I reckon it would hurt pretty bad, but it probably wouldn't have killed you.
Yeah.
So so the bee stings wouldn't have killed you either.
Which one?
There's that one.
Oh yeah! Oh my fucking god! Yeah, it's like a little bee nest, and all of a sudden
what? That would have I'm allergic to bees. We don't know if he's allergic to bees.
I know. I actually almost asked Jesse, but I didn't want to preempt.
Dude, you better get that EpiPen. You better get that EpiPen.
Allergic to bees. So, like, if you're allergic to bees, just one of those would have been a good storyline to leave.
This is before people knew about allergies.
That many bees, like that size of a hornet.
It is. It's the 80s. These kids are throwing water balloons at each other on a fucking roof. You're telling me?
Jazz, they really are, because Woodstock, your boy Fisher Stevens in The Burning says, like, I'm going to go take my vitamin E or whatever for the evening. And they're like, what kind of witchcraft is that, you fucking pussy? I'm like, dude, he's taking just regular vitamins.
No. That's not what that was.
His face is covered in like a million bees.
Well, yeah, that's because out of that one tiny beehive, literally 200 billion bees came out somehow.
Yeah, not a bee nest. They looked like yellow jackets.
And
that was a small nest. It was
a tiny nest.
My face. There would have been like 10 of them in there.
Yeah, there's 200 trillion of them that came out. It's absolutely insane.
Jazz, what are you saying, Fisher Stevens?
Okay, so when they said like the the Fisher Stevens is like, "Where's my vitamin E?" They're like, "Don't tell me you believe that stuff." I think it has. My understanding is they were probably implying something about like vitamin E increases penis size or something like that. That was how I understood that scene.
Well, Jason
Well, is
Alexander.
that true?
Well, Jason Alexander is making jerk off. He's making masterbation jokes about Woodstock the whole time. But
the
like,
whole time.
But you don't know if he's just doing his little scat shit. Like it's Costanza just doing, doing Costanza stuff the whole time. You have no idea if he's like, if it was supposed to mean anything, or he was just supposed to, like the script just said in brackets, banter, and he just ad-libbed that shit. Which seems like almost all of his lines were just him bantering and making shit up.
Yeah.
And by the way, Glazer, that guy was a prick, and Glazer should have kicked his ass because he's
Alfred.
Like, what do I do? Oh, he's like making fun of him, and then he grabs him by the shirt, and he's like, "What's your problem? Like, dude, you're mocking me to my face. What do you mean?"
Yeah, right. When I'm trying to get with my lady, I'm trying to tell her how it's going to be real good. I'm going to tell her it's going to be real good.
Real good. Jesus Christ.
Then okay, so we talked about what, like, does Ricky know or not? What do we like? Did we answer the question? Do we think
I don't
Ricky?
think we did.
I don't think yet.
So, I think we have to assume he doesn't know. I don't know how he doesn't know, but I think we have to assume he doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no shared.
He,
there's no shared secret where they
repressed it. And like somehow
he can't not, but he just can't not know.
Yeah, they live together. Like, it's just like impossible that they live. Yeah, I mean, the mom would have had to like. There's no way Ricky could be as normal as he, other than the rage, that he appears to be. And like the mom would have had to like really do like weird stuff about keeping them apart and just like really, really insane shit. That I just don't think he would be acting the way. Yeah,
but I think despite all of our logical arguments, I think Joel's right. I don't think he knows.
I don't think he knows.
Yeah, I mean, the movie doesn't hold up. He doesn't know. Or at least the theory of the movie is he doesn't know.
That's
right?
correct.
Like,
Right.
Like, I don't know how
in that movie verse. Now, in that movie verse, Ricky is a fucking moron. But like. Other than the great line of that's a fucking, like, you know how fucking good you have to be to say eat shit and live, like
and make it work.
If you can actually say, like, if like you could do that in real time when someone told you to eat shit and die and say
just the delivery,
you'd be a goddamn legend. You wouldn't have to do anything the rest of the time you're in school to say.
He managed to do the delivery.
Eat shit and live, like.
He did the delivery in such a way that it's like, I'm unbothered by what you said, and I'm like lecturing you back. Eat shit and live. He's just sort of like this. Way he did.
Do you know a lot of the lines and a lot of the scenes were shaped around? So the director for Sleepaway Camp, Robert Hiltzig, actually went. That's a real camp in Argyle, New York, way, way, way upstate. And he went to that camp as a kid, and it was called Camp Algonquin. And then they just renamed it a garbling of that, Camp Arawak. And so he said a lot of that stuff happened. And in fact, the kid Mozart, who they make fun of most of the time, right? He was actually bullied on the set in real life. And so, there was a lot of interviews from the book that I read about that. So I thought that was interesting too. But there's just so many questions around like, go ahead,
my other main one with respect to like Angela's past is, so did she have a psychotic break at the camp?
Yeah.
Or has she been doing crazy shit? Yeah.
Right. Because if you go by that, if you say that she was, I mean, not normal, obviously she had a lot of issues because of what was happened. But like, if you say she hadn't killed anyone, and then what put her over the edge to do her very first murder was the guy that was Chef Artie attempting to assault her unsuccessfully, never actually even touched her.
Trying to prevent a mass murder.
And then was like,
misunderstood Artie.
And then was like, I'm going to kill him. Like, I'm not going to tell a camp counselor. I'm not going to tell my cousin. I'm just going to fucking straight up mysteriously behind the scenes kill him.
Maybe that's what it was. Like, he was gonna get her. She knew the guys were gonna get her, and so like Artie was the one who set her off. That was the
Yeah.
way. I mean, he like she knew she had to act fast because this guy's gonna get her now.
So
They're-
is there a reading of this that Artie is a time traveler
Yeah, that's
and went back?
Time-
Artie was
time
trying
cop.
to save the
Try and
fucking
stop
world.
all
I mean,
of
like
Yeah.
how otherwise? I mean, is there really a world where that guy survives? I mean, in theory, he's a camp counselor year after year.
Chef Artie
after
is
year.
Cropsy.
Always
Chef
has
Artie's
a
Cropsy, the
proclivity,
burn
right?
one.
Like he's like, oh, we're not like they're not too young. We're just too old. Like he's just been waiting for this scene, right? Like for this thing. He's like John Connor in the Terminator, kind of like. I mean.
Jazz, you got
Look,
any-
I mean, he would have had to like either everyone's just in on it. That's just Chef Artie being Chef Artie doing
I
his
mean,
molesting.
that's what Ben
Or-
says.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine.
Well,
how
that is what Ben
bad
says, but then, like,
Artie feels about
you know,
being this guy. Have we
Ronnie
put ourselves
delivers-
in Artie's shoes to where we're like, holy fuck, this guy's just been having to play this part this whole time.
They
He's
said-
had to insinuate himself into
Yeah,
that
I
camp.
know.
For years, he laid the
Yeah.
groundwork just until she would show up, and then he could finally save the future. That's right.
Yeah,
I like this
dunked
movie.
in a big ass vat of fucking grease or whatever he was cooking at 6 foot.
He's cooking ears of corn. Ears of corn. By the way, he always had a can of MGD with him. Did you see that? He's
Yeah.
just like banging down drinks, cooking.
Yeah.
Baldies. I like to call them, but where I come from, we call them baldies.
Who came up with that? Have any?
Dude.
You guys are from the East Coast.
Well-
You ever heard baldies?
Never
The-
heard that.
I think the
I've been
director-
around a lot of dirty old fucks. I never heard anyone
Right?
like, let's
Never
call
heard
them
that.
baldies.
This
Like,
director has some issues. He's like,
Yeah.
we got to cast age appropriate kids
Right.
for this movie. You know, I have some, dialogue that before the director's cut of this movie is just straight. It would be get him arrested, obviously.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
I have questions about.
Let's go. Guys.
Did I actually cover the burning ones? So
No.
we did the Weinstein stuff. The bad guys
Yeah.
lived.
Yeah.
Well, maybe my general question is like, are these the least deserving survivors ever in a movie? Like, I think like
they're up there. I mean, they definitely. I mean, I think you would call Alfred the peeping Tom. I think by today's standards, you would call him a sex pest, right? Which is like one step below. It's the catch-all term for someone who we can't quite arrest and charge with a crime yet, but who's like is doing fucked up things that are sexually inappropriate to or with women. And so like that's the best you can get out of him, is that he's a sex pest. And he tries to, of course, Weinstein writes it as, I'm alienated at this camp. I don't have any friends and blah, blah, blah. And
which
like,
is completely untrue.
Which
Like,
is
he's surrounded by
he's
people who have his back.
right.
Yeah.
It's all, they even shoot Glazer with a fucking BB gun for
I know.
him.
Poor Glazer.
Poor Glazer. So I don't know. That doesn't make sense either. Poor Glazer. That poor guy. All he wanted to do, actually, Glazer, really not a bad guy. He gets bullied half the time, and he's defending himself from insults the other half. And then all he wants to do is like
a really interesting movie, actually. It's like, because what are y'all's guys' remembrances of summer camp? First of all, mine were never feeling cool at all. So I mean,
I only went to, I was the worst half Jew in the world. I never went to like true sleepaway camp. In sixth grade, in sixth grade we had like a week-long sleepaway camp for school. So everyone went away to this place. Yeah. And we did that. And I remember having mess hall duty, or eating in the cafeteria, you have your little bunk that you're in with your buddies. It was okay for me only because it was like the group of kids that I went to school with. So I pretty much knew everyone, but no, none of this shit.
I think that's the hard thing. Is like none of the ones I went to in summer they were always with people I didn't know at all. So it was like every fucking day was showing up with like a whole new crew, and there was like 3 people that fucking knew each other, and they were like the cool kids because they had been going to the summer camp like the whole fucking time. When I watched, that was actually my biggest takeaway watching like The Burning, was like, holy shit, this camp seems fucking awesome. Like, I was
dude, they're going on like, there's like a 2-night.
Like, Jesus Christ, I want to go to this fucking camp.
There was like a 2-night canoe
to where I'm in like young enough to go to this camp every fucking year. I'll fucking live the dream. Like we all knew each other. It was like an episode of Lost. It was like fucking
yeah.
Whereas, you know, at
the camp I went to was closed down because there was this horrible accident where the camp counselor was burned alive, and
yeah, but that was just the camp counselor. I mean, he just fucking killed that dude. He was cool with it. He told us he made his
Todd is the villain.
He is absolutely the villain.
Oh, that's still my take. That's still my best. I'm like, after I finished it, I was just like, this motherfucker just told a story.
Yeah, the story part is the over the top one.
This dude to fucking death. Yeah. They're like, I fucking rolled down the hill and fell in the water, and then we left.
The best take of this entire thing, awesome. The best take of this is that Todd is the villain.
Absolutely.
You're 100% right. Don't know how I missed it.
Yeah.
He is the villain.
But like, since we were talking about how fun the camp and the burning seemed, just how bad is the camp in Sleepaway camp? So basically, like, okay, so they get to like play baseball and shit during the day, and then evening there's this sad mess hall where there's just like music playing in the background. They're just like is this a thing that happens in camps? There's just like an evening thing.
Social. They call it the social. Yeah.
Is that real?
It. Look, I'm telling you. Well, I don't know.
But mediocre broads compared to.
I mean,
that's right.
I mean, it seemed pretty real. Like, it's exactly how that would like go down. They just stand around and section themselves off. The guys talk a bunch of shit, and the girls stand on the side. That seemed pretty much like every 7th grade dance I ever went to.
Oh my god!
But all right, guys. I think that's it. That's about it for this week. So thanks again for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode, which focuses on creature feature horror movies. Werewolves are on the docket as we compare The Howling with Silver Bullet, a couple of favorites among us here. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. You can shoot us an email at choppingituphorrorpod@gmail.com. Again, that's choppingituphorrorpod@gmail.com. We are up on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Line Notes, and YouTube if you want to see our pretty faces. You can also check us out on Instagram at choppingituphorrorpod. Well, thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time on Chopping It Up.
Girls will be boys and boys will be girls. It's a mixed up